I have been taxed. I have been tasked to talk on the topic tantrums, meltdowns, and emotional regulation. So today, my goal is not to work on or talk on perfect parenting or perfect children. It's about understanding behavior more deeply and responding more effectively. So, just as a brief background, my name is Priscilla Ifriye Aban. I am a licensed international behavior analyst. I'm part of the Ghana Psychology Council as an psychologist assistant, and I recently completed my master's in counseling. I have over a decade experience working in the field of ABA, and based off on my multifaceted approach, I look at things or look at cases using more interdisciplinary approach. Um, and also set practical strategies for family. So that is in a bit of an introduction. That is who I am. I am the founder of the Mindbridge Learning Center, which you see on the logo. So just for a minute, please, it is not going to be just a lecture. Just for some ground rules, I'll be calling on our participants to also be part of this interaction. Let's all have a very interactive meeting. Okay. So when we say behavior, or when you see a child who is screaming, who is crying intensively, you've gone to church, you've seen one child every day, they are running up and down, they are running to the church building. What comes to mind? What comes to mind when you see that? Um, what comes to mind? Please let me have the people few submissions. Miss Zulaiha, if you can check on that for us.
I think Chinedu wants to say something. His yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chinedu, please, you have the floor. Just quickly. A few, maybe two submissions, then I can continue.
Okay, maybe it's a mistake. His microphone is off. But if I see a child running around in church or anywhere else, I don't go to church. But if I see a child running around like where he's supposed to be seated, where everyone expects to be seated, I would think maybe he's bored. Maybe the
Mm,
child is bored. Yeah.
okay. What are some of the emotions we feel? I know, Miss Zaya, you are in the field, so you you understand. But as a lay person, sometimes we find ourselves being a bit upset. But then we look around, right? We look around. Where is the parent? Ah, this child, is it that they are not being disciplined at home or what? These things sometimes come to mind if we have been very sincere to ourselves. And but yes, what Ms. Zulaiha also said that sometimes there are different reasons behind it. And my job today is to ensure that we need to start looking what is really happening beneath the behavior. What is the real reason why this child is crying? Why are they screaming at this point? Why do they sometimes mentally shut down when they are being taught? You can tell that, oh, they've really zoned out completely. You talk and talk and talk and talk. Or why are they running around? all that. So we need to really start thinking what is beneath that behavior. Before I go into what behavior is, I just want to also talk on why is it important to understand behavior. So behavior helps us to respond with empathy. If we understand why the behavior is happening, if we understand what is going on, it helps us to respond with empathy as opposed to being frustrated with it. It also helps us to teach and support and build skills, and helps us to create safer and more supportive environment. Also, it helps us to build stronger relationships and trust. So when we understand behavior, we empower the connection and the growth and also change, because behavior change is what we want. We've seen a behavior pattern we are not happy about. Once we understand it, we are able to put in effective strategies to work on it or to improve it. Please, if you have questions, I think after a while I would open up for some questions. Okay. So what is behavior? As a behavior analyst, and we always say behavior, behavior. Oh, this child has behavior. My goal is to say that behavior refers to anything a person does that can be observed and measured. Anything. So it's not just the crying or hitting or the challenging behavior. Behavior is anything we do that we can observe, experience, and that we can also measure. So examples will include crying, talking, avoiding, screaming, laughing, communicating, writing, eating, running away, all that is all behavior. So behavior is how we respond to our internal and external world. If you are hungry, you start holding your stomach or something, or you just go to the kitchen and pick. That is a behavior we have observed. But that is your response to what is happening within your physiological makeup. So behavior refers to anything a person does that can be observed and measured. So as behavior therapists, when we look at a behavior, I want to understand no behavior happens in isolation. So if before I can even say that, please turn on the AC, my physiological feeling would be, I'm feeling hot or something. And I'll say, oh, can you help me? So it was triggered by me feeling hot for me to even use the language of, I need the AC turned on. And then the consequence will be I pick up the AC and I turn it on. That has reinforced that behavior. And so in the future, I pick up the remote, sorry. In the future, anytime I want to feel cold or change the temperature of the room that my body does not want at the moment, I can easily pick the remote because it has been reinforced. The consequence of when I turned on the AC, I started to feel better, has been reinforced. Therefore, I would continue to do it again in the future. So in like manner, when let's say a child is there, they were playing with the tablet, then all of a sudden we take the tablet from them and immediately the child starts screaming. And then now mommy says, it's okay, you take it and go. What had happened is that now the screaming has become a communication, a behavior that when he spoke it, it was clearly understood and he got back his tablet. So in the near future, whenever he engages in that behavior, he knows that I will get what I want. So when we as behavior analysts are looking at behavior, we want to understand what happened before and what did the child respond to? How did they respond? That is the behavior. And then what happened after? It is important to understand both what is happening before and what you did after, because that is what is maintaining or keeping that behavior in place or making it still happen or making it still continue. Now, I want to define what a challenging behavior is. So we've understood what behavior is. So behavior is not just challenging behavior. Behavior is anything we do, and we all respond to the world through triggers, through certain cues. And what happens after will determine whether we do it again every now and then. So now we are looking at challenging behavior. So challenging behavior refers to behaviors that interfere with learning, affect safety, disrupt relationships, limit participation, and creates distress for the child or others, right? So we are not saying every behavior is a challenging behavior because there are certain things that are neurologically or developmentally appropriate. Children cry when we give birth to babies, babies cry. And as they develop language, as they start to understand the world and they start to use language, the crying behavior that was their first means of communication eventually reduces. Now you have this child who is now 3 years old, who is now always crying for everything and not using the language skills or skills that he should have developed per the milestones are not being used. And now it is affecting their interaction in the classroom. You have a child who is now hitting their head or hitting somebody, or that is affecting their own safety. Also, if the challenging behavior, they are always looking up the sky, they are spinning around, not interested in any social interaction, that is affecting their social interaction. So, for us as behavior therapists, we are saying that not every behavior warrants intervention, but it should meet some of these criteria before we say, okay, this is something we need to work on to take. Where is this child? What is the intensity of it? At what age point is this an appropriate behavior within this age limit? Then based off on that, how is it impacting their quality of life? So is it impacting, interfering with their learning? Is it affecting their safety? Is it disrupting their, is it even limiting their participation in structured learning or structured environment? So like going to places like school, is it affecting their chance of being in a classroom? Is it affecting other structured environments like going to meetings or stuff like that eventually? So we are looking at who, and a child is anybody really. If your behavior is interrupting with the quality of life, then it is something that we will need to look at and work on to improve. So examples of challenging behaviors are aggression, self-injury, severe emotional outbursts, elopement, running away. Elopement is the same as running away. Property destruction. Then sometimes very intense dysregulations and unsafe impulsive behaviors too can be part of it. So my keynote here, as you can see over here, is that not every difficult behavior is pathology. Children naturally protest, which I've explained earlier. They sometimes are frustrated and sometimes they test boundaries. Or sometimes they do have immature coping skills. And it's on us to now help them to develop these skills and to navigate their normal neurodevelopmental stages to be able to now come out with the best outcome. Other reasons why, so I mentioned earlier that for you to understand the behavior, you need to know the why. Why is it happening and all that? So general terms, before I go into what as a behavior analyst will say, generally, sometimes behavior is always, we always say, and it's not even something, always communicating something. What we observe, what we are measuring is always communicating something. Sometimes it's big emotions, overwhelm, frustration, anxiety, fear. Sometimes it's unmet needs. I'm hungry. I'm really tired. Have you met a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old? I even think even to 4, 5, they still have little tantrums when they are sleepy and tired. Even we as adults, when you've not slept for a while, you become cranky. And so they have these needs, and sometimes they also lack certain skills. So you have protests in the classroom. He's always running around. He's hitting somebody because maybe he's lacking skills in understanding the educational inputs there. The communication is not well developed enough. So they lack certain skills in that area. Also, environmental factors, and this is more on the sensory side of it. Maybe it's too loud, it's too busy, they are not sure of the expectations, the routine is all over the place. All that can trigger some level of anxiety within the child, and that makes it what we then observe becomes that outward challenging behavior, we call it. Also, changes or transitions. So, when new things are going to happen, hey, today another nanny, we didn't tell them anything about it. They are there and we just change things on them. Um, you try something, you take them to new school. We are going to a new place. Every day when we are going to school, we pass through 37 and we go. Now today you say you are going to pass through airport bypass. You didn't like nothing, no prompt, no, that can trigger serious because our children, while some of them may have some diagnosis that limit, they are quite observant and they are used to certain routine. So when there are changes, sudden changes in their routine, sometimes that causes very big challenging behaviors. Then we are looking at some passage, maybe they went through something and then now they've developed an aversion to that. So that also triggers a behavior. The moment you bring handwriting, maybe they were in a school where every day the teacher is shouting at them, hey, do it. If you don't do it, somebody did not teach. So now the moment they see you bring a paper and a pen, whether it is, then they are triggered. So all this can be why. So when we understand the why, we can support the children in better ways. In what a keyword I would want to even leave here when we are talking about the why is everybody eats. I want us to remember everybody eats. EATS. We all eat. So eat stands for E for escape. So most often, according to behavior analysis, we're saying that children, we all engage in behavior for these four main reasons or the purpose, which we call the functions of the behavior. It means that they want to escape. So when I would use the baby analogy, when a baby cries, what are they usually crying for? And this one I'll open for interactions. I want just three quick ones. When babies cry,
Sometimes they're hungry. Babies will cry for food.
yes, they are hungry, they cry for food. Who else? One more, not Miss Zulaiha.
Dirty diaper.
Someone is talking. Can you speak up?
Dirty diaper.
Yes, dirty diaper. That is true. Last one, then I can move on. Last one. Whilst I wait for the last one. So Miss Zulaiha said sometimes when they are hungry. So for that, I'll put it in, they want to get access to something, something tangible.
Yeah. Sorry,
Right?
Priscilla, someone wrote in the chat.
Okay.
Say when they feel tired and sleepy.
When they feel tired and sleepy. Yes. Yes. And also when they want your attention, right? Mommy, they just cry because like, wow, they say, mommy, come and pick me up because they've eaten. Their diaper is not wet. They just slept and woke up. and they are still crying for your attention, that shows that that one is for attention. So at the core of it, we all engage in behavior for having access to tangible or something we can eat or need, a toy. Now, from babies, they move from wanting to eat their food. Then, when they start drinking water, they'll cry for water. Then, when they start eating and they start engaging with their toy falls down, they'll start doing, then you say, oh, let's pick it for them and all that. So, access to tangible becomes one of the reasons why we would engage in behavior. Then the escape. Escape means you want to avoid something or get out of an uncomfortable situation. So your child's diaper is wet, they start crying, you check, it's like, oh no, I'm so sorry, because that was an uncomfortable. So they were using the crying as a means of communication to get away from that uncomfortable feeling of having a wet diaper. Or they are in a place where the weather is so hot. Hey, that day, the heat. Your child can cry and cry and cry because it's hot. I want to be out of this, right? Or like I explained earlier, seeking for your attention. So E is for escape, A is for attention, T is for access to tangible, then S is your sensory needs. Of so the child is sleepy, yeah, and then they start being cranky and they start crying and all that. So that became a communication to understand, to feed into, right? Or they've not seen mommy. Mommy just left to work. They just like they start crying. All that is more of an emotional expression. And sometimes they use it to also regulate emotions. So behavior from that early stage is like that, but it evolves in terms of how it presents. But the core of it still remains the same. So with neurotypical or typically developing children, as they evolve, now language starts to replace that. But you can even tell that when they get to 2 years, where they are more into toddler stage, we people call it the terrible two stage. But really it's because I just finished using crying as getting everything I want. I just started saying a few things, but I don't have every word for everything I need. So where communication breaks down, I would now use the thing that used to work for me in the past, which is the crying. And then now they are all mobile. So then they do something sudden, they throw something. And mother reacted, oh, what is it? Why do you throw? So they realize, oh, that's also a means of I can get their attention with throwing something. So next time, now throwing becomes also another behavior of expression, different from the crying, but it has the same purpose. Now they develop further and our language fails. But then there are now delays in development. But still, we go to what worked for us. We used to cry. So now you have your 4-year-old now crying, but now it has changed. There's more aggression. He's kicking out, he's hitting, sometimes even banging their own head or hurting themselves. Just because when he first banged his head, he got an immediate reaction. Oh, what's wrong? What's happening? And all that. And so it became another means of communication to get the impact of what they wanted to communicate. So every time there is a purpose, it may change even to adulthood. Sometimes it becomes very, some start to use insulting behaviors. And it is still, what are you trying to communicate? This frustration you are showing, what is the reason behind it? It is not about, once we understand what is happening behind it, we are now able to put in the right intervention. I hope you are clear.
The child says you are clear.
So now let's go into our talk because it says tantrums, meltdowns. So I just wanted us to have a bit of that background. So now what is a tantrum? Everybody's like, oh, my child always likes tantrums. Oh, I don't think it's a tantrum, it's a meltdown. What is this this big English we are using? Right. So tantrums are emotional or behavioral outbursts, often related to frustration, denied access, difficulty in waiting. Hey, me as an adult, sometimes if you ask me to wait for you at a place and you have not called me, it can get frustrating. But so with children who have not developed the right coping skills or techniques, then they have a huge outburst. Also, communication challenges. I want this, I want to tell you, but I am unable to at the moment. And so then I will have a tantrum because I cannot really communicate what I need at the moment. Emotionally, if the child has not built coping mechanisms, that's what we say emotional immaturity. They need, because as you develop, you also build certain coping skills that makes you handle things better than you would have handled earlier. Right. So that is part of it. So tantrums may look like crying, screaming, kicking, throwing objects, dropping to the floor, refusing to do their work, and they cross their hands, all that. So tantrums look like this. And that's why when someone says tantrum, you need to clearly define what you mean by tantrum. Because for Kojo, his tantrum may look differently. And for Ama's tantrum is different. And for Kojo, his tantrum may be for another reason. Whilst for Ama, whilst their tantrum may even look the same, it may be for another reason or another function. Please, do we get it? So not all tantrums are manipulations, which we need to see, because sometimes we tend to think, oh, he doesn't want to do it. Oh, he's doing it on purpose. He just didn't. No, it's not always. Some are developmental, emotionally driven, communication based, and reinforced over time because someone has responded to that communication over time. And so now it has become an easier go to for them. It does not mean they want to manipulate you. And as you can see, what I have started here, it says behavior that works often continues. If it works, and in Ghana, growing up, we used to have this statement that says, yeah, if he had the MP we don't like people who cry to take things. We don't like that, don't like that. Because once your child cries and every day you give it to them, every day when he's crying, they say, you tell the older brother, it's okay, give it to him. Why? Let him give it to him for him to stop. Oh, it's okay, just give him the toy. Why are you then? Rather, we even show frustration on the other siblings. What we are teaching this child is that, oh, if I want something and I cry, mommy will take it for me. So behavior that works often continues. So now let's look at the other one, meltdown. Whilst tantrums is for, it's more about frustration, it's more about denied access, it's more about this. Meltdown is a loss of emotional and physiological regulation caused by overwhelm. So possible triggers may be sensory overload. You can, sensory, when we say sensory, it's like when the stimulation is too much for you to handle, right? So our senses, for what we learned in school or in our science, they said we have 5 senses, but the occupational therapist will tell us we have 8 senses. So senses, like if the child, the thing is too loud, sometimes even for us, somebody bangs the door, bang, 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 it can get a bit unsettling. And so for a child whose sensory or physiological regulation system cannot fully process these senses, they can have a meltdown. You as an adult, and I can say it for us working moms and going to school, sometimes it can get so over. You have been overstimulated the whole day. You go home, then the little thing your child does, if you're not careful, you will break down and you have an outburst. That is you having a meltdown at that moment. can come with you starting to cry, you'll be screaming. You even say, hey, I don't want that. Some parents who are sometimes beating their children is because they are overwhelmed and there is a physiological regulatory breakdown. They are having a meltdown themselves. And for our children, sometimes we see it as covering their ears. Sometimes you look aloof because the person is talking to you, but you're not even hearing. You are frozen. So meltdown is often more related to your nervous system response and not a deliberate defiance. And also, we should know that not all meltdowns look loud. Often, children may go silent. They might even withdraw or even freeze. So we look at tantrums and then we look at meltdown. So like I earlier mentioned, tantrum is often frustration based, then meltdown is often overwhelm based. Tantrum is goal oriented. It means I wanted something, I didn't get it, I couldn't wait. There's a certain goal. Whereas nervous system, the meltdown is more of a nervous system overload. And with tantrum, the child is also looking at how people are reacting to what they are doing, or they may monitor your reactions, right? And with meltdown, the child struggles to regulate. It's not like I really wish I would. You have a child. Sometimes behavior can start as a tantrum, but it can move into a meltdown because the child does not have the sensory regulation, but to regulate themselves, to calm themselves down again. Because people cry and eventually they stop. At a certain age, the crying length even reduces as they grow. But for someone, it's like they can't control it. It's like it just gets overboard. And so it means that that child is struggling to regulate. They may also stop if the goal is achieved for tantrums. But with a meltdown, despite the consequence, even if you bring them the toys, even if you, it may still continue. So tantrum is also often linked to their wants, whereas the meltdown is often linked to overload. And like we said, children may experience both. And understanding the difference to this may help us to know how to respond. Very important. Now let's look at emotional regulation. Please, am I going too fast? So that I stop me if I'm rushing. Yeah, so emotional regulation is the ability to manage your emotions, tolerate frustration, recover from distress, adapt to changes, and cope appropriately with challenges. So children are not born regulating independently. They learn through their relationships. So their mother. So if you can see your little one when they fall down, the moment you panic, they also start crying. But you're like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. They model how you coped with that situation. So most of these things are learned behaviors, and that's the basis of behavior analysis. Sorry, just a second. Please give me a second. My child needs me briefly, just 2 minutes. I'll be back. Ms. Zulaiha, please, questions. You can take questions at this point.
Hi, okay. Okay, I have a message. Okay, so far, does anyone have any questions of what we've done so far about what behavior is, what tantrums are? Okay, one person has a question. Please go ahead.
All right, good morning. Thank you
Um,
for this wonderful lecture. I want to ask concerning my son. When he's doing something wrong and you tell him to stop, if at the moment you tell him to stop, that is when he keep on doing the thing. And then when you spank him, it's as if it gets worse. He might even want to fight you back. So how do you handle such situation?
Okay. And Miss Confidence. So I'll take the questions down when Miss Priscilla gets back. Then she'll come and address the questions. Is that okay with you?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. But can you give me examples of the times that he does that? Like maybe is he pouring something on the floor and you stop him? Can you give me like
Maybe,
practical examples?
um, okay, maybe sometimes he, how do I even explain this? He's maybe doing what he's not supposed to do, maybe carrying pockets around, or doing something wrong, something. How do I even explain this? Maybe you ask him to do something, or he's doing something he's not meant to do, maybe
Mm-hmm.
scattering clothes and all that, and you tell him to stop, stop. He keeps on doing it, and maybe when you spank him a little bit, he gets angry and wants to like fight back, and I don't know. Try
So
to.
mostly from my personal experience, what I can say is mostly in that case, you would like to replace what he's doing instead of asking him to stop. So that's what we try to do with like kids that are now developing how to regulate their emotions. So if maybe he's doing something and telling him to stop, and you're probably giving him a ball or something else to do, you've redirected his actions. So that'll be more easy for him to follow than tell him to stop. And he, in his mind, maybe he's not getting why I tell him to stop. So why? I'm having fun. Why I tell him to stop having fun? He doesn't understand why you're telling him to stop that. So from my point of view, I'll say it will help for you to have a replacement for him till he understands some of these things. But when she gets back to see what she has to say in
I'm
addition.
here. I'm here. So what was the question?
Okay. So the question was that she has a child. When he's
Okay,
doing something wrong and you tell him to stop, he continues doing it. And when you spank him, it even gets worse.
of course. So that's the first thing we would want to understand is, does the child understand the instruction given? And was there a follow through in terms of prompting to go? So sometimes we just say, stop that, or he's straight boy. You don't go into mediate. So the moment you say stop it, the next time you go in like, oh, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And you spank. But there was no behavior correction or, like you were mentioning earlier, redirection.
Mm.
So just teaching him to even understand that instruction. So you go in as like, okay, can we stop? And sometimes saying stop, what is stop? Can the instruction be clear? Put the ball down, please. So put the ball down is a clear direction, right? So you say that he doesn't listen one time, two times. You go in there, put the ball down, you take the ball and you put it down. No drama. Next time he does it again, you do the same thing. You go prompt the correct reaction. Next time he would model it. But when we spank, the purpose of even punishment procedures, they say punishment procedures are things that we do to reduce the future likelihood of the behavior, right? So if you are doing anything, think about it. Is this reducing the behavior? That means it's not worth it. Or is the behavior happening again? Did my child understand what was said? I don't know if you have been able to help you to understand it. But I'm sure as we are going on, I would also talk about some of the things you can do and not do. Can I continue now?
Yes, you can.
Yes. Okay, so building regulation. So we just spoke about um emotional regulation, meltdowns, and all that. And most often it's very important to co-regulate with your child. So especially when they are having a meltdown. So children may learn regulation through safe, supportive relationships. How we react. These are all learned behaviors. Even we have the understanding that anxiety, all these things are learned responses. We as human beings, when as we interact with the environment, we learn certain things. So the room was dark. You watched on a video and there was a snake and there was a man in the darkness. Eventually, you develop a certain fear for darkness because whenever you are walking in a dark area, you keep looking around yourself is because of the experience. Even though you might not ever have experienced it yourself, you have modeled it from that reaction has been modeled from what you have observed from others. So same with our children. We as the adults first need to be calm. When they are going through meltdown, you need to be calm. It's not like, oh, why are you crying? Oh, stop there crying. What is happening? You need to be calm, but present. It helps them to feel safe. And now it's important to also connect before repair, like correction. The child is crying. It's not the time. I told you that's not how we behave. I told you I don't like that. That's not the time for all that. You're just there. And now when that child calm down, you need to also model the regulation yourself. So now, let's say the child is having a panic attack. They are all over. You have to model the breathing. Come on, let's breathe. Breathe in and out through your mouth. Breathe in. Even if they don't understand how to breathe in yet, your hand movement is on their chest if they can allow it. Because sometimes you need to also learn to know that some people don't want to be touched in that period. So eventually, as they are calming down, you're also helping them to regulate. It's like, okay, let's breathe. Then you're just there. Sometimes you don't even need to say anything, just be there. You validate their feelings. So you can say, oh, we are having big emotions today, right? It's a bit hard, especially when it's meltdown. Oh, the sudden, I'm so sorry we didn't tell you that the music teacher is not coming to school today. That is a meltdown because there's a breakdown in their usual routine. Now you also support their independence. Now you build their skill. You can say, oh, it's too much for me. And now you teach the language skill in that period. So this is one of the main foundations to when a behavior analyst is saying that when a behavior is happening, we don't interact, we don't talk about the behavior, we remain calm and collected in that environment. So we'll be there. But you won't see us rushing to say, okay, what do you want right now? And then somebody will be at the back and say, give it to them. No, because we need to also help the children to go through their own process and regulate. I always give this example that imagine something happened to you and you were sad and you were crying and you were even about to calm down. The moment you were calming down, somebody came and said, oh, what's wrong? The moment you start thinking of even talking about what happened, you start crying heavily again. So sometimes just remaining calm and not talking about it for the person's behavior, whatever it might have looked like, to calm down by itself before you go in and say, okay, now, if it's a visual that we use, the child is a PEGS learner, I now come in after there is a calm before I'll now teach the new replacement behavior. But I cannot teach you the replacement behavior when there is dysregulation. I need to be there to be calm. So due to people not understanding the background of it, sometimes they say, oh, behavior therapists, they are just strict. They just allow the children to cry. They don't know. But the child needs to learn self-regulation. And self-regulation means you are not interfering. You allow them to go through their calming process. And once they are calm and you teach the replacement behavior, now we make it an expectation. Every time we are prompting, we are giving different opportunities so that the child can now use that behavior more independently. And reinforce now the replacement behavior and will not reinforce the challenging behavior. So what not to do during a dysregulation? We should avoid yelling. We should avoid giving threats because you have to say what you can follow through with. Too. Because if you always give into it, hey, you, if you do, I'll ground you. I'll ground you. Hey, if you do, you won't go and play with your friend. Every day, say if you do, you won't go. But nothing has been done about that. Your child never takes you seriously again. So it will still happen. So avoid giving threats. Make sure that the consequence you decide to use, you can follow through with it. We also don't shame. Big boy like you, why are you crying? Big boy like you, we don't cry like that. Big girl, why is a big girl crying like that? Look at you. That's shaming. That's not good. You don't also force eye contact in that moment. Like, oh, it's okay. Look at me. Look at me. By force, look at me. Hey, you when you are having this, you yourself as an adult, sometimes I'll say we forget to look at the children in our own lens, the lens of our own development. Say that me, if I was upset and somebody's telling me, look into my eyes, something, it can be a lot. And that's not the time to give your long lectures. In fact, they won't even hear you. And the physical punishment must stop. You don't do that. A dysregulated child cannot effectively learn through fear. Always remember to regulate before you correct. So how can we support children better? I think this slide came at the wrong time. When we understand behavior, we can understand in ways that teach, connect, and empower. So first, we need to learn to observe. Most often, we are all reactionary. Like, we only react to, oh, the child did this. And when you go to schools or you're meeting, every day he's hitting the brother. And as a behavior analyst, I'm like, I hear you, but I want to understand what happened. So sometimes let's observe, let's see the patterns, let's look out for it, let's see what is really the message behind this. And let's stay calm. Let's listen, because I believe I'm not speaking to just parents with neurodivergent needs, but I'm speaking to all parents and also caregivers and teachers and alike. So let's learn to listen to their needs and their feelings and their experiences. And let's respond with empathy. Let's teach the behavior change we want them to have. It's not going to happen automatically. We need to teach it. And sometimes teaching it means modeling it. Sometimes teaching it means going to physically hold their hand and helping them to do the action you wanted them to do. And let's empower when they are doing things right. Because most often we always focus too much on the negative part. Oh, sit down. Why are you always standing up? But the days they are sitting and they are calm and they are collected, we forget to give them continuous reinforcements like, oh, that's so good. I really you're sitting so nicely. Oh. Because that is the behavior you want. You need to throw more spotlight to it. But every time you're throwing more spotlight on the unwanted behavior, you find that the children now engage in those behaviors more because they realize that that gives them your attention, that gives them everything they are looking for. Whereas it might change from the access to escape, access to tangible, it becomes more of an attention thing. So I'll do things just so that mommy will tell me off. But if you are always praising the good things you are doing, the patterns of behaviors we want to see more of, you realize that that keeps happening because children are proud when they do things like, oh, mommy, I did this. They are happy. Every challenging behavior is an opportunity to connect and create a positive change. So when it's happening like that, I don't think that, oh, there's a breakdown in regulation or there's a breakdown in connection. Yes, but it is your opportunity to teach a positive behavior change. So now we've said, remember at the beginning when I was talking about antecedent behavior consequence. Pass as behavior analyst, whilst the behavior in question, which is the B, is there, we want to manipulate what is happening before and what is happening after in order to affect the behavior. So once we understand the function of the behavior, we will need to put in certain strategies. Before, I always say prevention is better than cure. In fact, I will say prevention is more effective than constant reaction. So you know that this child, you've checked, you've observed, you've done your observation, you've seen that whenever routine is suddenly changed and everything, so you or because his day is so unstructured, anything is just all over the place, you decide to say, let's create a schedule, a visual schedule to help my child understand what is coming next. Let's set routines. So every morning, instead of just not knowing when to change their diapers, not knowing when to feed them, when they are babies, we are so very on point with setting routines, right? We make sure that every 2 hours they say breastfeed, breastfeed every 2 hours. But sometimes you even realize that, oh, your child every 2 hours they're breastfeeding, so you alter it to fit your child's level. But when they say every 2 hours, you follow it. But now when they are growing up, we tend to relax on the routines that we started with. So we need to establish certain routines, and that's a proactive strategy. Once routines have been put in place, people say, oh, my child never sleeps at 8, they don't have naps. But if you put in a routine, eventually they learn it. That to the extent that now, whenever it is 12, if that child does not sleep, it's like they are all over the place. So you are programming them in essence, right? So routines are important. Now, once you've set the routine, just saying it or letting it go does not work. So you put in certain visuals to establish the routine so the child can see, even if they can't read, they can see a certain symbol. Oh, now first we'll do this, then we go there, then we move there. And also giving constant movement breaks, especially for classrooms, especially for schools, even sometimes at home. Now our children are stuck too much on their screens. We are not regulating it very well. Our children need to move. Children need to run around because if they don't get those movement breaks, that is when they become fidgety, they become disruptive sometimes. So plan the movement breaks. Don't let it be like now in the middle of the class, then they just stand up and they are all over the place. Some children can focus for 30 minutes non-stop, for 1 hour non-stop, but it is built gradually. So even when they are in early years, every now and then their classroom structure has been built like that for them. But as we are growing older, whilst we forget that some children are also delayed and may still need some frequent movement breaks established. But because we are not having that, then we get disruptive behavior in the classroom. So we need to plan movement. If it means that once in a while he gets to say, oh, it's time for the washroom break. Everybody, let's go. Everybody go and drink water, but the water is not near them. So they will need to move to go get the water. They'll need to every now and then, if it's just one particular child that's also struggling, you're like, okay, every now and then I'm going to send him on an errand within the classroom so that the movement is also not just movement, but it has a purpose to it. You should also have certain sensory supports in place. So children who are also sometimes fidgety may benefit from trampoline jumping. Sometimes they may benefit from other movement swings and all that. And we need to put certain sensory things like those who fidget with their pencil, every day they are flicking it. And so it's delaying how fast they are writing in their classroom. The work is delayed. Every day they are playing with their pencil. There should be certain replacements or proactive ways. So maybe every now and then they have a fidget spinner, they have a sensory ball that they can squeeze for massages. There are several different things we can do depending on the need. And also, you put in communication support. If your child is having a communication breakdown, like you model language every time. You also put in certain things like pegs. There is more functional ways of also communicating instead of being you teach them, oh, it's okay, you can point to it and I will go. Children are non-verbal communication is also communication where the children are using gestures and other things to communicate to us. We need to observe and know and provide the right supports that are also universally appropriate. Because sometimes you teach them one language style and maybe it's not necessarily universal for everybody to understand wherever they go, restaurants and everything. Then there is a breakdown and sometimes it can affect the child. So when you are putting in strategies to replace or the delay or to help the children, And on this point, I even want to talk a bit on it a little because sometimes parents are like, no, I want him to talk. I don't want him to do PECs. I don't want him to have an AAC because it will not help them to talk. But your child needs to communicate. You are communicating freely with your voice and everything. But currently they are unable to. They need to be able to advocate for themselves. And so we putting in those strategies is not because we want to replace their need to use their own voice, but we want to give them that chance to be able to communicate what they need universally to everybody. So also making sure that you prepare them. So today, mommy, before going to school, has to drop by her friend's house to pick something. Before you leave, whilst you might think your child may not be hearing you, they hear. You can say, oh, today we are not going straight home. We'll pass here before we go. And from there, we'll go there. You are preparing their mind that, hey, there's going to be a sudden change in your routine or where we pass, we are not going to pass there today. So it helps them to prepare before it happens. You give transition warnings. They were on their phones, they were playing with toys, they were outside playing. You don't just come, hey, come inside. You can say, oh, in 5 minutes, I'll be calling you to come back in. Oh, you have just 10 seconds left, my dear. It is just a transition warning so that they can prepare themselves. And now you also spend time to also teach them what the different emotions are, all that, and how to handle it so that they now start to identify when they are also starting to feel those emotions. We need to sometimes give them a choice in their matter. We are always dictating what they should do. But children can have a choice too. And sometimes it can be a forced choice, but it is still a choice. And when people are giving choice, some children, as part of the functions, one of the functions we are also realizing is that children have a need for control. They want to control how things. And so you have a child who is having a challenging behavior because of a need of control. You will need to help them to have some forced choice so that they can have a buy-in into what strategy or the lesson you want them to do. He's supposed to do his math homework, English homework. Then you tell him, okay, which one do you want to do first? They had a choice in it, so they'll be committed to do it. It's very good. Now, now you've done all the preventive things, you've done proactive, you put all the strategies in place. Now, the thing says still, at this moment, as you are teaching something new, it's not going to immediately go. You are teaching a new replacement skill. These proactive strategies are all new skills your child will need to get used to. So it's not going to immediately heal when you say, okay, I've put in the visual schedules. I've put in that, so immediately behavior will reduce. It will reduce over time if we are consistent and we follow through. But then it has now escalated. The thing is, the child has now had behavior is happening. How do we now manage it? We are saying that ensure that the child is safe. So if the child is throwing things, everything, make sure that that's where they are, it is safe. So we will say that if the child was, let's say, engaging in a behavior for access to tangible, as behavior therapy, we say don't reinforce that behavior. And not reinforcing that behavior means that you are not going to have what you were trying to communicate. So you were crying because you wanted the toy. I'm sorry, you don't get access to the toy because I don't speak crying at the moment. So I'll wait for you to calm down. When you are calm, then I teach you the replacement behavior. So it might be a peg. It might be just telling you to point to it. And then I give you what you wanted. Why it's important for us to make sure the child calms down before we teach the replacement behavior is that if we are not careful, we'll be teaching a chain of behaviors. So the child now associates with, I need to cry. Then they will tell me to ask. Then I get it. But if you create a clear distinction between the crying, even if it's for 30 seconds, before you teach the replacement behavior, now there's a clear distinction that this crying, this part did not work when I was calm and I was taught, because it's not like I'm expecting you to say it and you get it. No, I'm going to prompt you, model it for you, and then I give it to you. That way the child learns, right? So when there's an escalation in that moment, I make sure you are safe. Nothing is happening in the environment that will hurt you. And I'll just leave you be, and I'll be there in the environment waiting for you to calm down. And when it's a meltdown, I may just be there, just in your presence. Some of them may not want to be touched, like how this picture is saying, but there are some that will need that constant, you'll be rubbing their back just to ensure that, okay, I'm here. But I'm not going to talk so much because that can trigger more behavior as opposed to it making you feel calm. So I'll be there. And then now you problem solve, you discuss the behavior after it has happened. What happened? What's wrong? If the child is at that developmental cognitive capability to discuss with you, then we find a solution. If not, when due to your observation and seeing what triggered the behavior, you are now able to now prompt the right intervention. And also, I would want to say if the behavior happened because they didn't want to do something you asked them to do, whilst in the moment of trying to keep them safe, as much as possible, if you can ensure that they still do the action, is important. But if you can't, and it's something that you need to wait for them to calm down, but the moment they calm down, you don't tell them to go away. You immediately bring back what you had asked them to do it. Because following through is important. If you don't follow through, next time, whenever they don't want to do something, they are always going to do what they did. So you need to follow through. And if it means following through means I need to prompt you to do it, I will prompt you and help you to do it. So prompt is anything that we do to assist to get a correct response or to get the right response. So I will prompt you. And later, if your child is cognitively there for a reflection, we can now reflect on the behavior that happened or the situation that transpired. So teaching replacement skills that builds independence, it's very important. We are talking about challenging behavior. We're talking about, oh, it's too much. We're talking about all that. But it will not go away if you've not replaced it. Remember, we said that challenging behaviors are always communicating something. And if you want to reduce it, it should have a replacement that will still communicate the same thing. So the replacement you are doing should meet the same needs. It is not just taking it away. You didn't give them any way of replacing, and then you are like, what should he do? He will always go back to what was working. So there should be a way of, whilst we are reducing it, we are teaching you a way to still have access to what you needed. So we are teaching you communication. We will teach you skills like emotional regulation. We will have social skills training. We'll teach you daily living skills. We would work on you doing more thinking and problem solving. And that is all skills that we would teach to help you build independence and to keep that behavior, challenging behavior down. So functional communication is important. We say functional because it needs to meet the need of what they are trying to communicate. When a child can communicate effectively, challenging behavior decreases. So when we are teaching functional communication, we are teaching children to have a voice. You teach them words, you teach them signs, you teach them pictures, you teach them with a device, but to express their needs. And also, whilst they use that medium, now you honor their message. So you reinforce them by giving them what they were expressing, what they wanted, what they requested, even sometimes validating or acknowledging what they said, because that's also a reinforcement. All behavior is communication. Listen to what is beneath that behavior. We also respond, not react. So responding teaches, whereas reacting escalates. Because when you react, it's rather going to make the thing rupture. And it's important when teaching functional communication, we are teaching more communication skills. We model, we prompt, we reinforce, and we expand the meaning of communication. Communication is really a bridge to reducing challenging behavior. Now, one part of behavior that sometimes get controversial and sometimes it's difficult for parents to handle is understanding stimming, what we call self-stimulatory behaviors. And I always say that parents always wonder, why is my child always humming? He's always spinning. Take it away. Oh, why is he doing that? It's making him look weird. Oh, I don't understand why he's always having to flicker his hands like that. Can we do something to make it stop? But I also tell us to pause and say that we all have our own self-stimulatory behaviors we engage in. And sometimes it is when people are in a meeting or something. You see, when you sit down, you'll be shaking your legs. That's leg shaking or leg tapping. It's a self-stimulatory behavior. You are doing it most often. It is speaking a language. It is telling me what I'm observing is telling me what's happening in your internal states, that you are feeling nervous about something, or in that meeting, there's a bit of anxiety going on. It is speaking something, and it's helping you to reduce your anxiety or the emotions you're feeling. Or someone gets upset and see how they tap their legs. It is a self-stimulatory behavior, but they are doing that to regulate themselves. There are people who bite their nails. Whenever they are anxious or going through something they are thinking about, they'll bite their nails so bad. That's a self-stimulatory behavior. So I want us to look at it and see that we all do these things. And when we do it, it is communicating something. So understanding stimming, children may stim most often to regulate their emotions. Something may be happening, they are sad about something, and so the child will do, or they are happy. When they are happy, is spinning and all that. It is expressing an emotion. Also, sometimes they use it to cope with stress or boredom. Most often, sometimes they are bored because whenever this child is being interacted with, they are not engaging in the self-stimulatory behaviors. But when they are not engaged, when there's a break, nobody is talking to them in the house because this child is delayed in communication. So, mommy, go to the corner. Then they'll be engaging in the thing that's help them feel soothing, help them to cope with their boredom, which is the stimming, which sometimes we as adults find it frustrating when you see your child doing. But I want us to understand what the language is. So it is to self-soothe, it is to help them reduce anxiety, and sometimes it is to help them process their sensory input. Not all stimming is harmful. Some behaviors may actually help the child regulate and function. So, like I said, I'll take you back to the behaviors that um, warrant intervention. Is when it's affecting their safety interaction. But if I'm self-regulating, and when you have to talk to me, so for us as behavior, when we want to address this, we are looking at how frequent is it happening. It's not because we want to take it away, but maybe the frequency is so high that it is interfering with the child's regular functioning. Then we will need to find other means of helping them to still get the same sensory input, the same stimulatory input, but more in a regulated way that can allow them to still functionally participate in regular development or their social life. So if your child's self-stimulatory behavior is also hurting their own, because some kids pull out their lashes, some people pull out their hair. These are all certain conditions that we will need to work on, mainly because it's harmful to them. But not the core of it, that, okay, why, once we understand the why, how do we help them to actively replace the need for that? So you have your child who is spitting saliva, flames, and playing with it, and you know that, oh, that's so irritating for you, but that child needs it. So how do we replace this behavior or give an alternative that will still give this child the same sensory need they want? So then we'll say use shaving foam to give them, put in some lotions, do some slime and all that to help them still get that same stimulation they want, but it's more functional. So the goal is not always to eliminate the behavior, but we want to understand its purpose and also to give them the right regulation. There are some kids that they may need it. And so we will tell you that, okay, in this position and all that, we don't want you to mask, but we need to understand why it's happening. So stimming and self, children may engage in stimming. I think I've mentioned this part already. Okay, we are getting close to the end. Sensory strategies that support regulation. The right sensory support can prevent overwhelm and promote calm and focus and learning. And in this case, sometimes it's really good to speak to an occupational therapist who would also do a sensory integration or a sensory profile for your child to know where are some of the areas is your child sensory avoidant or sensory seeking and all that, right? So then when we do that, then we come up with strategies that will help your child to self-regulate. So calm environment, sensory tools like the fidget headphones, weighted blankets, weighted vests, weighted wristbands, and also movement opportunities, allow movement break to release energy, visual supports and routines that helps to reduce the anxiety linked to predictability, and sensory preferences. So you observe, you listen, and then you individualize it for the child. No two children are the same. So when we meet sensory needs, we create space for success. So we say positive behavior support builds meaningful change. We need to focus on what works. Teach, support, reinforce, build skills for long-term success. So focus on strengths. Like you focus on the child's strength. What do they enjoy doing? How do we individualize their learning experience in my school? Sometimes your child likes a certain theme. The same worksheet, if you put it in a language or put pictures of things they like in that worksheet, trust me, the child fights with you every day about whenever you bring that subject out will change. So you need to focus on their strength. What can they do well and how can we leverage on it? You teach new skills gradually. You replace the challenging behaviors with helpful, meaningful skills. Then you reinforce progress. You celebrate their efforts, you celebrate their success, and reinforcement will eventually build motivation. And sometimes some children need more extrinsic reinforcement. Our children, they teachers, oh, we do, they will get good job. You give them candy tomorrow is this. It's not bribery. Eventually, they link it to that. Oh, whenever I do something, I get 100%. Mommy is happy. So then now they maintain it. Over time, you don't even need to give them anything. It becomes a part of self pride or self-esteem that they develop. So some children may not get that intrinsic initially, but you need to develop it with them. You collaborate and you communicate. You work together with the families. Families know their children best. I'm going to talk, there's a slide on that. But you need to collaborate with the families. You need to collaborate with teachers and the teams that work with the child to be able to come up with the best strategies for the child. Every child is unique, so the plan should fit their unique needs. I think I've spoken about this, but every child is different. Support should consider. So when we are making up a support plan and all that, we should consider their sensory needs, their communication level, their emotional profile. Where are they developmentally, so that we can take away what is normal and what is not. In terms of environment, what's the environment? What is triggering in the environment? Environment is also how we respond to his behavior. So when he puts out a behavior, we react to it. That's the environment. And also the environment also affects how he also responds, is also his behavior. So now we need to look at the environment is the antecedent and the behavior. We need to and the consequence. We need to factor the environment. We also need to look at the family's culture. So there was a case where the person's like, oh, the child is always in people's personal space or bubble. But then you go to their family and their culture and realize they're very warm, they are very lovely, they are always hugging their nannies. It's like a very cuddly upbringing. Then now you meet this child and it sounds like, oh, he's always in people's space. You have to understand the family culture. What works for one child may overwhelm another. So we need to really look at the child, respect their background, their culture, be responsive and individualize it. So family partnerships. We are stronger together. Families know their child best. I'll always say this. Parents know their child best. So when we are working together, you, the parents, you're not just bringing them to us to solve anything. We are working together as a team. And so because, we need to respect and honor the family's knowledge, their culture, and what they prioritize as well. And we need to be open to communication. We need to share information. You need to listen actively, and we need to stay connected. And we need to collaborate on our goals. Sometimes mother or father say, this is what, as a professional, that's where you guide and you say that, okay, based off on what you want, these are certain foundational things that we need to be able to achieve that. We need to collaborate on goals. Your child may need different professionals, an OT, speech, behavior. We need to all collaborate on the goals. And also support at home. And I'm going to emphasize on, they'll come to therapy, they'll come for support, they'll go to school, teachers are putting in intervene, they come home and mommy said, it's okay, give it to him. It's okay, give it to him. It's okay. Keep it, it's okay, don't mind. And that also breaks down the support. So the lack of consistency confuses the child and builds frustration. Because here I'm being told that when I come here, when I do this, it's happening. It makes the child dysregulated. So we need to all be consistent with the expectations. And we need to celebrate progress. When families and teams work together, the children thrive. This part, I have picked the theme. I have seen this happening a lot in recent times, and I felt it's important to put this here. Children are still children, whether they have a diagnosis, whether they haven't, they are still developing children. They don't stop to develop because there was a diagnosis placed on them. So it means that what the developmental milestones are, they will still experience it. Although there is a delay, they might not get it at the time you thought they should, but they will still experience it. They are growing, they are learning, they are emotionally developing, they are exploring their independence, they are testing boundaries, and they are building skills over time. So we have children who are now teenagers, and yet we are still treating them like they were 3 years. Yes, they may not have certain skills. We need to respect the limitations they have according to their diagnosis, but we need to also respect that they are developing, and per that developmental stage, a child may be seeking autonomy. A child may be seeking more attachment to you. A child may be seeking trust versus mistrust as psychological development of the child. So we need to respect that. Neurodivergence does not erase childhood. They develop differently, but they are still developing. And I say this because someone say, oh, but every day I have to tell either a seed that says, oh, and I was like, my children do the same. And my children are neurodivergent. I'm not trying to trivialize, but it's good for you to sometimes look at what is happening normally and what is really something that we need to pathologize. Not all behaviors is pathology. Sometimes it is just a regular child reaction. So we need to support. Support should respect both the developmental growth and the neurodivergent needs. I am at the end. So I have some case scenarios. Looking at my full here, do we have time? Ms. Zulaiha, do we have time or have overstepped? Then I can move on.
I think we can move on.
So I'm done. Thank you for learning, reflecting, and growing with me today. So this is me dancing. Yay. My thank you dance. Thank you. And if you have more questions and all, you can contact me on this, the Mindbridge Learning Center. And on the mindbridge.org, you can reach out. Thank you. I am open for some questions for like 3 minutes, and then we can take it from there. Thank you so much. I hope it was beneficial. Question time, please.
Miss
Miss
Confidence.
Confidence. I saw confidences. Yes, please, you can unmute it.
Okay, thank you so much for your lecture. It was insightful. I want to ask if you have any group chat we can join in case of any questions or challenges. Is there any group chat we can join?
Okay, I personally currently don't. We just have a group called the Pause and Replenish, but the focus of it is to let parents really distress. But it's something that we can consider. Maybe Khad-San Academy and MindBridge can come together and create that parent support group.
All right, thank you. Secondly, I don't know, how do you help a child that is always restless? Like you can't even go out with this child. The child is always restless. The child cannot even sit for like 5 minutes.
So remember we mentioned that we need to first observe what is really, if I observe, then I'm able to pick up the antecedents. What are some of the triggers? And also leaning towards their strength. So he said that he cannot sit more than 5 minutes, but can we start with his strength of 5 minutes? And then as he's successful and we are rewarding that, we can now keep increasing the time they are sitting or required to engage, but systematically. Because sometimes we just put unfair expectation that, okay, my child can really focus for 5 minutes, but now we want them to do 30 minutes. It means that every 5 minutes, you need to allow them to have some movement around, go out, step out, and then that reduces the restlessness. And when he comes back, you can even stick it at maybe every 5 minutes he gets a 3 minutes movement. And then when you bring him back, you do another 5 minutes, you set a timer, and you are always being a proactive means that you are doing before he triggers or have a restless behavior. I don't know how his restlessness look like because you didn't give me that description. But before he does that, I will take him on a break before he does that. So eventually, when you realize that, oh, you've gone a whole day without him doing that, you've done 2 days, then now you say, okay, tomorrow we are going to try 7 minutes. We are going to try 6 minutes. Before you know it, your child is sitting in a place and they are doing 30 minutes, 1 hour, and it reduces that. But this is done systematically and it can mean a lot. So we need to take the child from their place of strength first and build their, uh, should I say, their, what's the English? Build their skill, basically, as they grow. Please, I hope this response has been helpful.
Yeah, wanted to add, there's a number in the chat.
Yeah.
So you can send a message to that number. We have a group where like we have parents that we can just send tips and help them in case of anything. So number is in the chat. If you can just see it, then just message the number to be added.
Yes, Miss Confidence, I think so. I'm open to take 3 more questions, then we're good. 3 more questions or additions, because yes, additions. We are always open to learn. This is a learning space. We are learning from each other. So questions or additions? 3 more. Okay, Miss Jael. Yeah, Jael, if I'm right. You can talk now.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for this very insightful information this morning. And I have a question. So, recently, my son, he just started, I don't know where to say, he getting not just aggressive, but he started throwing things at us. He didn't used to do that before. But in the
Mm,
past 1 week, he just picks up stuff and randomly throws it at us. And I'm like, I don't know where he got that from. I don't know if it's some kind of change in behavior.
mm.
Ah, like
Yes, so
I don't know. I don't
how old
understand.
is your son?
He'll be 6 in June.
Okay.
Like,
And is he on the spectrum?
yes, he is.
Okay. And you just, so to help the picture, it's good to also give me some insights. What are some of the things that he does, or what happens before he would typically throw things in the past 1 week
Um,
or hurts himself?
well, I would say I don't know if I would say it's him being frustrated. I try to I have a song I sing with him when I try to calm him down. I do that. Then it seems like he has calmed down. Then the moment I turn around, he picks up, he wants to go through with that process. In the moment his mind is set on it, he wants to
Okay,
go
so
through that.
mommy, I'm not cutting you short, but I want you to first not look at, yes, the behavior, you've described the behavior, but just look back. What really happened before? So it's like telling a doctor, when you go and the doctor say, oh, I'm having headache. We need to understand what happened, right? So I want to know what are some of the scenarios that happened even before your interaction, because right now you're giving me your consequence, what you do. Usually you sing a song for him and all that, but I want to understand what happened before.
Maybe he might be playing with a toy,
Mm-hmm.
and then he kind of get, I don't know, he just suddenly get it just comes out of the blues. Maybe he might be playing with a toy, or he might say, okay, come and have a bath, and then he doesn't want to have
Mm,
a bath. Then he's running around the room, and then
mm,
you're trying to grab him, like, come and have a bath. The next thing, he
mm.
just picks up something and throws at you.
Yeah. So you see, now we've been able to see. So it's not just happening in isolation. But now what happens when he throws it at you? Do you still make sure he goes to bath?
Yes,
Or
him, you can't do that. This is not nice. I said to him, you can't do that. Sometimes he might resist me, like, even maybe he might now not directly throw it at me, but throw it randomly at the wall, because I've asked him not to do. I say, don't throw that at me. I won't let you do that to me. And then maybe he now randomly picks it up and throws at the wall or at somebody else, but not directly at me anymore.
yes. So at the end of the day, first off, you even run around with him a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do that. We do that. We try
So
to.
that becomes more of an attention thing. The beginning to, you said sometimes he's playing with a toy out of the blue. And it might have been that whilst he was playing with the toy, there was no one interacting with him.
Mhm,
Correct. And then he throws it. The moment he throws it, you turn and say, oh, we don't do that. We
mhm,
don't throw things, right? So
mhm.
he got your attention. I always have a statement that says, any publicity, bad publicity is still publicity. Is someone, if he's looking for your attention, however he gets it, is still attention. So even if you turned around to scold him, you had given attention to that behavior, and then it will happen again. So for now, what you can do is that if the thing he's throwing things and it's not safe, you don't need to talk about it. Don't give any vocal attention to it as much as possible. And just pick whatever is there. Keep things away that when he throws, it will cause you to react, right? Ensure he is safe. Remember, safety first. But don't give vocal attention at that moment. Because mind you, he might have some language. So even you saying, we don't do that, we don't do that. He doesn't understand what you mean by we don't throw things. All he's hearing is throw things. Mommy reacted. So as behavior analyst, we say remain calm. Just go take the things from there. Don't even fight with him on anything. And once he's done, you just come back again and say, okay, hi, you wanted us to play. Or if you need mommy's attention, you can just tap me. Or you can just call out to me and I will come. After you have diffused it, right? You now teach the replacement. You don't go back and say, we don't do that. I talk about the replacement. Oh, you wanted mommy's attention, you call me. The same with bathing. You wanted him to go and bath. That is more of an escape behavior, but it is merged with some level of attention because now when he doesn't want to, he'll be running around. Mommy is chasing him. Oh, you come here. We don't do that. We don't do that. So it has a bit attention embedded in it. But the core of it is he didn't want to bath. So you don't react to we don't hit, we don't throw things. You just try and take things that would be easy for him to have access to. Your environment should really be somewhat controlled. You control the environment so that it does not get a lot of reaction from you. And then you immediately go for him. Even if there is a fight in the beginning, you need to follow through. Take him to the bathroom, take a shower, and everything is like, oh, good job bathing. We move past it. So that eventually, when he gets to the level of cognitive understanding, his language is well developed. Now you can talk about, oh, things that are not good to do, things that we should do. But right now, you want to focus on the following through, the redirection, as opposed to focusing on that behavior. Otherwise, you may be indirectly reinforcing behavior. When we say reinforcement in ABA, we are not talking about bribes. We are talking about anything that increases the future likelihood of the behavior. anything you do that will increase their future likelihood of the behavior.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, Taiwo, but I think okay. So my biggest concern right now is that so when I'm going to try to implement what you said a few times. I
Mm,
didn't say it's been consistent, but so when I try to ignore him, let's say he picks up a bowl, I want to I take it from him, I put it down. He picks up this one, I want to put it down. The next thing he does is he tries to, for example, let me say in the past 2 years, he has broken
mhm,
4 80-inch TV screens.
mm.
So he attempts to like so he's doing that. I'm taking the things away from him. So it's like a rat race now. I'm taking it away, I'm keeping it. Then he goes for a bigger thing. Then he's hitting it directly with the
So yes,
of
yes. So you've seen that it's happening like that. I would say that in that moment you control. Is there a room in your house, like his bedroom, that does not have things that can be destroyed?
yes, please.
So in that moment, you still don't talk about the behavior of throwing. You
Okay.
just move him to a controlled environment. And the reason why it gets worse in as you are describing is that in ABA we call something extinction best. When you put in an intervention, and that's why consistency and following through is important. You don't drop it. You don't do it once and because it got bad, you go back to what you used to do. No, it gets worse because I use an example of a door.
Okay.
Imagine you open the door. Every day you turn the knob, it opens easily, right? Today you went, you turned the knob, it didn't open. So what do? You use the side of your hip to nudge the door a bit to see if it will open, right? It's still
Yes.
not opening. You use your leg to add, you apply more force. It's still not opening. Then eventually, if it doesn't open, you are now thinking, did somebody lock this door? Then you ask for help. So same with the child. Every time he threw one thing, you reacted to it. You gave him the attention. You spoke about it. Now you are saying, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm taking it. So he'll do something more pressure to see if you would open, if you would crack. But if you are consistent and you follow through, you remain calm, you don't react easily, eventually he gets the message that, oh, it was easier when I went to tap mommy. Because once you are also not reacting, once he's calm, you are teaching him the replacement behavior, right? So eventually he learns that, oh, it was easier to do this because now it will take him a long time, but you didn't crack. And if you didn't crack, he's not getting the response he was looking for, meaning he's not being reinforced. And once the thing is not being reinforced consistently, the behavior is likely to change or drop.
Okay. So what about the case where, okay, let's say right now when the program was going on, you see, I kept going in and out because he kept bothering me. He kept telling me he
Mhm,
wants, now he can say a few words. So he says to me,
mhm.
I want phone. And I said, I'm sorry, you can't have the phone. I'm in a meeting. And he's like, I want phone. I take it all the way to the top so that I can listen to it while I'm in the kitchen. Then he's carrying the chair, he's climbing to collect the phone. He just keeps saying, I want phone. I say, you can't have the phone. I'm in a meeting, you can't have the phone.
But you see, that back and forth, I mean, a meeting, you could have just ignored him. You didn't need to even talk about it. He's not having it. You are the adults there. You're in control. And even if I didn't put it up on the higher place, I still have it and you are not having it and you would wait. So whilst they are now communicating, whilst we encourage immediate reinforcement when they are now starting to communicate, as we are doing it, we are now systematically also teaching them delay gratification because we don't always get everything we want immediately. And it's a new skill now. It will be hard for him. But if mommy is consistent, mommy says, wait. And when mommy is immediately done, mommy gives it to him. He realizes that, oh, mommy kept his word. Mommy kept her word. And mommy gave it to me. So it's all about consistency, clear expectations of behavior, and remodeling it well. Otherwise, if today he does it and you give it to him, tomorrow he will do it again because he knows the more I push, I will get my way.
Okay.
Sometimes it is a battle of wills.
Yes. Yes, it's terrible. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I just want to ask a question. Will we have access to some of this info? Can we have access to this meeting so we can listen to it again? Because I think I missed some parts of the conversation.
It's
Hi.
Miss
So I'll
Zulia.
just come in, and we have a YouTube page, Khad-San
Okay.
Academy. So we always put our trainings on the page, so you can always go and watch. And even the past ones, we had one on AAC and things, so you can
Yeah, okay.
always
So
watch.
would the link be dropped on the group so that we can just click on it and go straight and so we can follow the page?
For now, no, because it's been recorded on the cloud. So we have to process it and put it on the YouTube. So that will be soon. It will not take that long. So kind of on the YouTube page, then you can just go and watch.
Okay, so the YouTube thing will come up later. Like I'm trying to understand. I don't know how to like I need to access the YouTube page so I can see this thing you're talking about.
So you can watch the recording. It's being recorded, but it will be on the YouTube page.
Okay, so later or like is it later or will the link to the YouTube page be given so that I can go straight to the YouTube page? That's what I'm saying.
I'll write the YouTube page in the chats. Then you
Okay,
can go to the YouTube page now.
okay, okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let me write it right
Thank
now.
you.
Bye.
Last one, then we can go, please. Last one. Last question. If not, all other questions can be sent to the contact information, or you contact Khad-San Academy and you can still reach me. Okay. Good. Okay, so I think there's no more question. Thank you so much, Khad-San Academy, for having me. And I don't know if feedback forms will be sent to, but I can share feedback form so that we can also work on our delivery better to help more families in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Thank you. This was very insightful.
Thank
And I'm sure everyone has learned a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So we shared our WhatsApp number and then the YouTube page, so you can just access it.